All right, it's conference championship week. We got the Big 12 title to start us off on Saturday. Kansas State traveling to Arlington, taking on TCU, the team of destiny, still undefeated, whatever you want to call it. Yet again, no respect for TCU from the odds makers. Just a 2.5-point favorite in this spot. Total is in the 60s. Seen right now at 62. You can probably get a 61.5 or 62.5, depending on which side of this you want to play. I got to play on both the side and the total in this game. Give me Kansas State plus 2.5, and then give me the under 62. We'll start with TCU's offense. If you look at all these generic numbers, all these generic analytics, they look good. And I'm not trying to say they haven't had a really, really good year and far outperformed expectations. I wouldn't necessarily call them consistent. I think they're really explosive. I mean, Max Duggan is really good at connecting on the deep ball. They got some big play wide receivers, Quentin Johnston. They got a lot of guys with speed on the outside as well. Kendry Miller, a running back, really explosive back. I mean, seems like every game, Kendry Miller's got a 50, 60, 70-yard run. So they're a very explosive offense. But like I said, they're not overly consistent. Think back to when they played Texas a few weeks ago. They put up just 17 points in that game. 2 plays alone accounted for 37% of their yard output that game. The rest of the way, they were totally dominated in that matchup. I think Kansas State can do something similar. The one thing I really like about Kansas State's defense is that secondary. I like what they have at safety, but I actually think their corners have what it takes to go toe-to-toe with this TCU wide receiving core. I said it, Max Duggan is very good at connecting on the deep ball, but when he gets into that short to intermediate range, he's really not very effective. It's kind of weird, honestly. Most guys are really good at dinking and dunking, really good in the 10 to 15-yard range. He's kind of the opposite. He's just a big play waiting to happen. I do think Kansas State has the wherewithal to kind of play a bend, don't break approach here. Make TCU sustain 12, 13, 14 play drives. That's not really their style. It's not how they like to do things. It's not to say that TCU won't create any explosive plays, but it definitely is to say that I think over the course of the 60-minute game, I think Kansas State is going to get quite a few stops in this matchup. Other thing to consider too, TCU's offensive line is a little bit vulnerable. 4 games already this year with 4+ sacks, and one of those came against Kansas State when these two teams met up earlier in the season. So Kansas State's really found a groove offensively as they've moved to Will Howard at quarterback. I mean, this is a guy that was not good at all for K-State these past few years. They lost Adrian Martinez to an injury. That gives Will Howard an opportunity. And quite frankly, I mean, he's over 9 yards per attempt on the year. He's taking care of the football. He's given them an element in the vertical passing game that, they just didn't have with Adrian Martinez earlier in the season. I mean, we knew what they had with Deuce Vaughn. I mean, he's a very slippery back, very explosive back in his own right. But Will Howard and his emergence as a passer has really made this Kansas State offense dangerous. Really outside of that Texas game, TCU has struggled to consistently stop the run. And it's not like they get gashed on the ground, but especially when you're going up against a guy like Deuce Vaughn, I just don't think they can do enough to contain him for 4 quarters when these two teams met up earlier in the year. I mean, Will Howard threw for over 11 yards per attempt against this unit. Blake Shapen a few weeks ago, who's not really a deep ball threat. He threw for 9 yards per attempt against this unit. They also have the far better offensive line than TCU does. I just think what they have offensively right now is more sustainable in this matchup, and I don't think TCU is going to do a good enough job at stopping K-State from creating explosive plays. So I am on Kansas State here. I think they win the game outright. If you're going to give me points, I'll take points. As far as the under, I don't think the pace of this game is going to be overly high. I mean, TCU, like I said, explosive offense. They're not exactly this fast-paced juggernaut that I think a lot of people perceive them to be. We know Kansas State's going to want to slow this game down, control the clock. That's just kind of Chris Klieman's style. And I would have made this total more like 58. I really see this as a 31-27 kind of game. And ultimately, I do think it goes in Kansas State's direction. It's been a Cinderella year for TCU. They still should be in the playoff, even if they lose this game. Either way, I don't really think what they have is sustainable. With the way Kansas State's playing right now, I absolutely am willing to back them in this spot. So give me K-State plus 2.5. Give me the under 62. Both are official 1-unit plays for me.